seconds.
2 months. It was 2 months, the journey, and he was languishing for several years in Ciudad Juarez, trying to get into the United States.
And what happens when he gets here is incredible. Pamela, in these last 20 seconds, what you're trying to do with this film is it opens all over the country.
We're now on the Abrazos Tour, which is a 26 cities. We're opening in 26 cities, north, south, east, and west in the United States. We hope everyone will join us. We hope everyone will become informed. We hope everyone will vote. And we hope everyone will learn about the border industrial complex as it pertains to your congressional district.
Pamela Yates, I want to thank you for being with us, director of the new magnificent film, Borderland, The Line Within, and Gabriela Castañeda, advocate with the movement of immigrant leaders in Pennsylvania, MILPA. I'm Amy Goodman. Thanks so much for joining us.
The viewpoints expressed in this program are the opinions of the people expressing them, and not necessarily those of Fresh Air Incorporated, its staff, or its board of directors.
Hi, this is Al McFarlane, host of The Conversation with Al McFarlane. You're listening to 98.3 FM, KFAI, Minneapolis. I'm Al McFarlane. Welcome to The Conversation with Al McFarlane. I'm glad to be here and glad to have you along as well. Well, today is Tuesday, September 17th, and as always, we're so happy to follow Amy Goodman and Democracy Now! Important. And we carry that conversation forward in this program as well. We start off, however, with we start off with a great look at sports locally, nationally, globally with our colleague and sports editor, Coach Leah. Coach Leah, welcome. Good to see you. How are you? What's new in the world?
Hey there. Hey, everybody. So, you know that lots going on. I'm going to go a little out of order. So, wanted to start with the National Football League today, and there's this growing trend right now, and there's just been this, and I noticed it during the preseason. I just watched all these kickers, kicking these field goals past 50 yards like it was nothing, and I'm just like, is this like really a thing right now? And it turns out that according to current information, the longest field goal made so far this season is a 66-yard kick by the Dallas Cowboys kicker Brandon Aubrey. So it ties an NFL record held by Justin Tucker of the Ravens. However, the kick was made during the preseason, and so it doesn't count toward the record books for the NFL this season. He actually hit another field goal, but then it was waved away, say 67-yarder. That was waved off. Supposedly one of his teammates were offsides. Isn't that terrible? So they weren't able to count that kick. So if you guys get a chance to watch the NFL this year, you'll see that very rarely will a team decide to just do a kickoff, with their fourth down, and will elect to have their kicker try for a field goal. They're thinking, the coaches are thinking, you know what, we might as well try it for these points, and as opposed to just turning the ball over to our opposing team. And you would think, okay, well, anything that's past the 50-yard line, that would be impossible, right? But we're seeing now that it's very, very, very probable. And as of, I think it was last Sunday night, there were 43 attempted field goals and 34 made already this season. So you can see that this trend of these extra points is going a long way. And my husband had we were at the Texas game on Sunday night, and he was saying, well, it's good thing our kicker made some points because we couldn't get in the end zone. So yeah, so that was pretty cool. So, but a little closer to home, with our Big Ten, the kicker of the year for 2023 was Dragan Ketch for the Minnesota Gophers. Mm-hmm. And so his longest kick was a 54-yarder, and he's also known for his very, very strong kickoffs. So if you're checking out our Golden Gophers, let's see how Dragan can continue his quest for the longest kickoffs and the longest field goals as well. So we're finding that our collegiate players aren't kicking quite as far as they are in the NFL, but I believe that trend is going to continue at the college ranks as well, and these kicks are going to get longer and longer and longer. So a fun fact: many of your NFL kickers started out as Major League Soccer players, believe it or not. So that's pretty
makes sense. It makes sense.
Yes, indeed. So just wanted to talk just really quickly. I'll go to some global news here with Jordan Childs, who was in Minneapolis recently for the USA team trials for the Olympics, and she is fighting for her medal, and good for her. She really should do that. What the big deal is that she originally placed 5th in her quest for a medal, and then it was taken away from her because somehow there was an inquiry requiring with the difficulty of her move, and said that her score was raised by a 10th, and so she was able to clinch the bronze, but then that was taken away somehow, and so
it was taken away because they decided that her team raised the question either 10 seconds late. It was some really small amount of time that was past the so-called deadline, and it might have been just seconds too late.
Correct. And so they're saying that that's a serious contradiction, and so she has filed with the Swiss tribunal, and so we're going to send love and light her way so that she can get her medal back. And I just truly believe that all of our gymnasts perform much more difficult jumps and tumbles, as we would call it, and so much so that a lot of times it's just hard to even know and judge what you just saw. You're like, wait, is that even humanly possible?
And it hasn't been done before, right? It's new.
Exactly. And so I feel like we need to catch up with what's happening before you get to the Olympics. As a judge, you should be really watching a lot of film, really watching these the competitors, so that you can see what they're doing just at will on a regular basis. And so but yeah, so we want to send love and light to Jordan Childs, because she deserves that. She's worked really hard.
Let me bring in a couple of other of our companions here for today, Jonathan Palmer and Indugu Youssef Mjini. Gentlemen, welcome to the conversation. Good to see you as always. And you might want to weigh in on the question of Jordan and the award that she got and then didn't get. Any thoughts, recollections, reflections on that?
The claim was that the appeal was made 4 seconds too late. And Jonathan has pointed out that they had film to prove that the appeal was made in time. So very unfortunate.
Jonathan, what's likely to happen? What are the options going forward? You have to unmute Jonathan.
Yes, and I believe it was at 47 and 55 that the footage shows, and it's actually, interestingly enough, part of a Netflix documentary coming up. So that will probably help. So going ahead and in her appeal, submitting that information will hopefully help overturn the ruling. So what that's going to have to do is, as you pointed out, it went to the Swiss Federal Tribunal, and they're going to go ahead and consider the evidence and consider the appeal, and we'll see where it goes from there.
So, Coach, what do you suspect were the motivations of the judging panel to give and then rescind the award, to change it, number one, upon hearing and judging differently because of the appeal, but then coming back again, probably, I'm sure, with the complaint of the person originally awarded and giving the award back to her? What were all the thoughts that went into that, and how has Jordan described it? What is she saying about it?
Right. So, it's so hard to make assumptions, or, when you're not in that space, but from a bigger picture of what the Olympics was as a production, for me, I felt that it was probably a decision that was made to let's just kind of keep things going. Let's make this be, something that's newsworthy at that particular time, that's production worthy at that particular time. And, and maybe not realizing the gravity of that decision, and if it was maybe made a little too hastily initially. And so, but at the same time, I still stand on the fact that when you're a judge and you're not even knowing what you're judging, even if you are a gymnastics expert, if you're looking at something for the first time, or things for the first time, and you're just like, wait, what was that? The way that you've always done things cannot continue to be the way that you always do things. And so to me, I feel like it was a couple things that came into play at the same time.
And if the degree of difficulty was too low, the scores of the judges would reflect that in terms of the final score. And in assigning the appropriate level of difficulty, the scores increased, which put her into the bronze category for the Olympic medal.
And one of the other interesting things is in her appeal, one of the head of the panel, the Court of Arbitration panel, has ties to Romania, and this kind of echoes what we saw with Amani Khalif and her boxing, where the body that had been stripped from the Olympics of going ahead and determining qualifications also had some controversy and tied to the boxer that I hope I'm saying her name right, but Amani had defeated as well. So it begins to beg a question: is there corruption within the judging, and people, instead of looking at what's fair and what's right, which the Olympics is supposed to be, this coming together, we put aside politics and focus in on just sports and competition, friendly competition. But if you're seeing more and more incidences, at least accusations of corruption, of people favoring and judging in favor of their country or a group that they are aligned with. And so I think it's raising a lot of questions now about how sports is going to progress.
Well, and I would tell you, I've talked about it before, how you really do try to separate politics from athletics, but you really can't. And a lot of times when you have a platform, you know, you want to be able to use your platform to share important views. And then there's the opposite of that as well, Jonathan, as you're saying, like you really do want to keep them separate because you want to just look at the fairness of how the athleticism or the sport itself brings people together. You know, we often talk about if you have two little babies from opposite ends of the world and you set them in a playpen and you put a ball in between them, they will find a way to play with that. They can't even talk, but they will find a way to together play with this ball. And you know, and that's something to be said about, you know, society itself. And you know, as many friends and just others that I know that have been a competitor internationally, you know, the sport is the one thing that brings them together even when there's a language barrier. And so, you know, I want to read something that the United States Gymnastics Committee released in a statement on Monday. And they say that USA Gymnastics supports the appeal submitted today by Jordan Childs at the Swiss Federal Tribunal, as we made a collective strategic decision to have Jordan lead the initial filing. USAG is closely coordinating with Jordan and her legal team and will make supportive filings with the court in the continued pursuit of justice for Jordan. So I'm very happy to know that she is getting the support that she needs from the vehicle that she represents.
I'm Al McFarlane. This is the Conversation with Al McFarlane. I'm talking with Coach Leah Jean Denley, who is a sports editor for Inside News. And we're also joined by two of my regular colleagues in Dugu, Youssef Mjini and Jonathan Palmer. And we want to pivot now to other topics that are trending in the world today. One, I pulled up an article from a website called The Conversation, and the headline says, "Another example of U.S. politicians spearing Haiti and Haitian immigrants." Let me read a little of that. This was published today, September 17th at 8:32 this morning. And the article is written by Nathan Dees, who's assistant professor of French arts, sciences at Washington University in St. Louis. There's an image that says "Make Pets Safe Again." You've probably seen it already, but it's AI image of Donald Trump sort of running with two kittens in his hands, each arm, and two black guys chasing him. So that's the story. The cut line on the photograph says a man in Tucson, Arizona carries an AI-generated image referencing falsehoods spread by Donald Trump and his running mate about Haitian migrants in Springfield, Ohio. And so that image is actually inside of a poster that a protester, a MAGA guy, is carrying. Let me read a part of it, and then I'll ask my colleagues to respond. Republican vice presidential candidate J.D. Vance continues to defend the false claim that migrants in Springfield, Ohio, have been abducting and eating area cats and dogs. That outlandish idea has been since former President Donald Trump repeatedly raised it as an anti-immigrant talking point in the September presidential debate. Trump never mentioned where the migrants allegedly eating the pets came from, but many viewers understood it as a reference to Haitians, a population that Trump has previously. Debate moderator David Muir stated in his real-time fact check, there is no evidence that or consumed. NPR and other media outlets have also declared the rumor, which began with local right-wing advocates and officials in Springfield, decrying the city's disorganized response to an influx of Haitian migrants in recent years, to be false. Well, it goes on. We'll be publishing the story in next week's edition of Inside News. But Yusef, Jonathan, Coach Leah, when you hear this Haitian, they're eating dogs and cats, what comes to mind, and what do we do about it? Jonathan, you're unmuted. Go ahead and start.
The first problem is anytime the 80s sitcom show Alf is trending, you know that there's something way out of left field and weird.
What do you mean by that?
Well, Alf was a show. It stood for Alien Life Form. It was about a small furry alien with kind of orangish wavy hair who would always try to eat the family cat. On his planet, cats were what they ate. So when this totally unsubstantiated rumor arose, that started bringing back the memes about that show. And so if you go over to any of the social media, Alf is trending, which is not something you expect to see. This is just the same old, let's paint black and brown people as boogeymen and come up with all sorts of scary stories so we can scare the base into supporting, Donald Trump and JD Vance. JD Vance actually said the quiet part out loud on a CNN interview with Dana Bash, where he went ahead and basically admitted that if he has to make up stories in order to get people to care about the issues. So Dana caught him in that quick, and they've tried to recover from that. But it just shows that within that area, in that group, everything has gone out the window, and they're using racism and they're using the xenophobia to go ahead and try to stir up their base. And what has led to real world consequences of, I think it's like 33 bomb threats being called in. They've had to close down schools, close down City Hall. A lot of groups are either working or participating remotely. And yet, at the same time, they're calling for a ceasing of the Democratic rhetoric. But nothing that has to be done about their own rhetoric, which has real-world consequences.
Let me share a little more before you come in, Yusef, on this. This is the same article. One of the subheads on it was historical reference to, quote unquote, the so-called unfitness of Haitians to govern themselves. And that's kind of in the background of the American attitude about Black.
Unfortunately, Al,
Haiti.
You were frozen for a second. Go ahead.
Got frozen. We'll try it again. So the article says that in July of 1915, U.S. President Woodrow Wilson invaded and economic stability following the assassination of Haitian President Vilbrun Guillaume Sam. 5 years into what will become a 19-year military occupation, an American diplomat and civil rights leader, James Weldon Johnson, was sent by the NAACP to investigate the supposed benefits of the occupation. His resounding takeaway: the United States has failed Haiti. So in related pieces for The Nation and the Crisis, Johnson chronicled abuses ranging from extrajudicial killings of Haitian citizens. And he says that U.S. forces killed 15,000 Haitians between 1915 and 1934. And the abuses included harassment and rape of Haitian women. Johnson said that the U.S. occupation amounted to nothing more than a belief in the unfitness of Haitian people to govern themselves. So there's a history here. Yusef, what about this from your point of view?
Well, a couple of things, Al. Number one, the Haitian Revolution was the only successful revolt by enslaved people in this hemisphere. And it led to Napoleon exiting this hemisphere entirely. It was responsible for the Louisiana Purchase, in which everything west of the Mississippi River, including a suburb of the capital city of St. Paul, also known as Minneapolis, from the Mississippi River all the way to the Rocky Mountains, from the Canadian border to the Gulf of Mexico, were sold to the United States because Napoleon wanted nothing to do with this hemisphere after the whooping the French took in Haiti. And 200 years later, while the Haitians were paying reparations to France for the lost revenue of the plantation owners who exited promptly to the United States, where they began breeding Africans as enslaved people, the Prime Minister of France was invited to attend the 200th anniversary of the Haitian Revolution and said, oh no, I'm sorry, the pain is still too great. We will not be attending, because of the suffering that we have endured. So Trump's reference to illegal aliens and building a wall at the border and talking about Springfield in particular was a dog whistle, as Jonathan pointed out, for Black people from Haiti, 15,000 who are migrants who work in the factories in Springfield. And the standard bearers for the GOP in the president and vice presidential race, unfortunately, have done everything except claim that Willie Horton has been paroled to Springfield. They're pulling out all the stops. And unfortunately for Republicans, it is backfiring because people are wondering, why do we have to stoop to such minstrelsy on the part of Trump and Vance to claim that people's cats and dogs are being eaten by Haitian migrants? And 6 public schools are closed in Springfield today because of bomb threats. And the National Guard has been called in. The Proud Boys have shown up and are waving their banners all over town, trying to call attention to this misinformation. So it's a dog whistle, it's misinformation, it's an outright lie, and it's very destructive, the weaponization of the fears of the American people, and all based on the only 2 platforms that Trump has gained any traction are immigration and the economy. And Springfield is driving the immigration platform at this point in time. Two brief announcements. This is the fall membership drive for KFAI, and listeners who would like to join KFAI and become members can do so by calling 612-375-9030. The other thing, today is National Voter Registration Day, and your vote is your voice. And if you don't register to vote, you can get, email voting began mail-in balloting began this week in Minnesota. You can vote by mail. You can call the Election Bureau and request a mail-in ballot. You can go to the Election Bureau and vote in person. If you don't trust the U.S. Postal Service, we had all of that drama during the 2020 election where they said that mailboxes were being raided, that Republican ballots were being destroyed. Go to the Election Bureau and cast your vote in person if you prefer, or call the Secretary of State's office or the Election Bureau and request that a mail-in ballot be mailed to you at your home. Fill out the form. You can also do it online by going to the Secretary of State's office. So register to vote and support KFAI FM community radio in South Minneapolis. And go for it.
Well, the number to call, 612-375-9030, 612-375-9030. And operators are standing by right now to take your call, take your pledge and your contribution. Support the station, support this show, become a member and a supporter of KFAI. Well, back to the question of Haitians. So, the summary of the article I read said this is a very old pattern, embarking about cats and dogs in Springfield. Trump, Vance, and their right-wing supporters are spreading the same kind of anti-Haitian rhetoric that has sown a harmful distrust of Haitian Haitian migrants for over a century. Quote, "This is not the first time that we Haitians have been the victims of Yan Campé Manti," which is a Haitian colloquialism for the campaign of lies. That from the Ministry of Haitians Living Abroad in a press release that followed the debate. And that phrase was Haitian Creole, again, a phrase that meant a campaign of lies. And it said that the result of such misinformation is mistreatment, hatred, misunderstanding in the interest of politics. Well, here's the deal, Yusuf, Leah, Jonathan. At any given moment, you or me or John, Yusuf, you, me, or Jonathan, or Coach Lee could be walking down a street anywhere in this country or on a bus or in a public building, and somebody who is deranged could figure that we look like Haitians. And then we now have been targeted by xenophobic fear, irrational insanity. And that's why none of us who are African Americans can afford to take this lightly. Just like you said, the schools are being shut down, public institutions being secured because of bomb threats. That same danger, nobody knows, Jonathan, unless you speak. If you're Haitian or not, Yusuf, you could be Haitian. Leah, I'm Al McFarlane. I'm a Caribbean, I could be Haitian. And the point is, this conversation, this train of thought, sets up unstable people to do irrational, crazy things. That's part of the MAGA initiative. What do you think, Jonathan?
I think you're spot on. I want to draw a little bit of a history thread into this, because what is fascinating about how the rhetoric against immigrants has gone is the tie-in to slavery, to the French, and to racism. So you have as Yusuf said, only successful slave revolt to throw off and take over the country. And you can see when you look at Haiti and the Dominican Republic, which share the same island, the difference between their progression in history. But in Haiti, you have them casting off the French and going ahead and establishing their own area and their own country, and then the kind of blockade
paying reparations.
Like that. I'm sorry?
Paying reparations to France.
Yes. A lot of people, then the next piece about that is this whole anti-immigration against Mexico and Mexican immigrants. A lot of people confuse Cinco de Mayo with being Mexican independence, and it's not. It is the celebration of the victory of the Battle of Puebla, which was the Mexican capital. Napoleon had sent French troops in there to conquer Mexico in order to bolster the support of the Confederacy. So they were going to support the Confederacy in the Civil War by coming up through the South and through Mexico. And they were defeated by the Mexican army, which included former enslaved people who had escaped to Mexico and joined up and became part of that. So what you have is you have two groups that have both defeated the French, have both cast off the bonds of slavery, and have stood against racism, and are both now the targets of the MAGA movement, of the anti-immigrant movement. We're not talking about Canada. Nobody is complaining about the Eastern European blacks coming in here. The immigrants that get targeted, the immigrants that gets highlighted, are black and brown people that stood against slavery. So there's an interesting historical trend that gets passed down, and I'm sure many of the people who are part of the MAGA movements don't know this history. They just know that they were told these are the bad ones and hate them. But it all has a deep root in history.
Yusuf?
Well, I want to give people an assignment, Al. If you really would like to learn more about Haiti, there are 2 books, and you can get either or both used like new on Amazon or on the internet. The first is entitled The Black Jacobins, and it's by Dr. C.L.R. James, and it is a fascinating and accurate history of Haiti. The second is a contemporary book published in this century by Randall Robinson, who was the founder of Trans Africa. And the title of Randall Robinson's book is Haiti, An Unending Agony. And it is so fascinating. It contains information that none of the networks have shared about historical and contemporary struggles for self-determination in Haiti. The Black Jacobins by C.L.R. James, or Haiti, An Unending Agony by Randall Robinson. And either or both of those books will blow the top of your head off with historical accuracy and inspiration. I mean, you won't find a more resilient example of African people standing up and straightening their backs for hundreds of years. They're incredible books, and they're easy reads too. Go get them.
Coach Leah, thoughts, impressions? You're in Houston, I believe, right? And Houston is emerging as a more and more international and more Afro-international community. Lots of Caribbean and West African people there. Also Asian populations that have skyrocketed over the years. So someone was telling me that whites make up only 36% of Houston's population. So people of color are the majority. That's number one. And because that is the case, the white power brokers, those who control the state, the legislative apparatus, are doing all they can over time to both block and suppress voting by people of color, Black people in particular, but also to change the rules. For example, if we generally
You're frozen again, Al.
anymore, what do you do if you're no longer the majority? One of the strategies I'm reading about in Texas is change the decision making, not from the majority electing people to the legislature, but to the decisions made at the county level. And if you organize to have most of the counties gerrymandered so that they all are led by white people, you effectively disenfranchise people who are not white. So what's the feeling on the street, on the ground there in Texas about immigrants in general, Black and Latino immigrants in particular?
So yeah, spot on. One of the things that this is a personal note. Definitely a culture change for me living here, as opposed to being born and raised in Minnesota. You know, I can go for days in the community and not ever see a person that is a white person. I mean, days, literally. They're planned communities, and we're talking affluent suburban communities, and they're of people of color in these planned communities in the city. And so, and it's not, and it's absolutely about being brown and Black, and the opportunity to be, quote unquote, to your point earlier, thought of as somebody other than an African American. For me, especially with my hair looking like this, I could very well be anything other than African American. But it's something that I love. I mean, I love the fact that there is so many different cultures and so many different people living together, and it is very scary for the people that are not of color, our Caucasian brothers and sisters. It's very scary knowing that in this particular environment you're not the majority, and so the things that you would try to, and so at every turn, you're going to try to maintain some type of power, right? And so what I've seen is even though I'm in a blue county, the entire state is red, right? And so now you are looking at what are ways that we can suppress and try to to have voter suppression at the 10th degree. I was at a family reunion for my husband, who was from Columbus, Texas, this weekend, a small town in Colorado County. And during the and what I said during what I was saying to the family was, oral history is so important. And they were talking about, the ancestors that have gone before them and so on and so forth. But one of the cousins spoke up and said, we got to vote. And he went on this whole spiel about how to make sure that everybody in the family voted. If there was never a more important time to vote, it was right now. And so I had a question for him, and I said, do you find that there is more voter suppression in the urban areas or the rural communities? And he said, oh, for sure, it's more prevalent in the rural communities. It's a lot easier to suppress the vote. And that is probably one of the main reasons why the state as a whole is red, because you've got people of color everywhere in the entire state of Texas. But if you're able to successfully scare the people of color, suppress the vote, make it very difficult to vote, and so I just shrugged my shoulders, and you just want to just throw up both hands, you know what I'm saying? But speaking about that, and Yusuf, you were talking about, today is the National Day of for voter registration. It's so important that you don't just register, that you actually go vote. It's you can be, I don't want to say pressured, but sequestered into making sure that you vote, making sure that you register, making sure that your registration is actually still valid, and then don't go to the poll. And so that's not helping. And not just vote for the president, vote for every single person on the ballot, because it's those
Coach,
that are closest. Yes, go ahead.
Coach Leah, Trump said publicly a few weeks ago that this may be the last national election that white people in America are able to win. Okay? And you talk about playing the race card. I don't know how it could be done any more bluntly than that, to make a comment like that.
No doubt.
Basically suggesting I'm the only person who represents white people. So let's all get out there and vote and make this a victory for white people, this presidential election.
Yeah.
But what
Just
did you mean,
just wait.
Youssef, when
You
he
got
said
a few more weeks.
he told his voters, his supporters, the Christian nationalists, you won't need to vote again after this election? What do you think he meant by that?
I think that the proof is in the pudding now, okay, and it's backfiring on him, because even his own supporters, the two people involved in the assassination attempts against him, or alleged assassination attempts, I should say, because one of them has not gone before the judge yet, were Trump supporters. They were people who voted for him. They were registered members of the Republican Party. So, and look at the hundreds of Republicans for Harrison Walls. Look at all of the top members of his prior, White House administration, the Defense Department, who have come out and endorsed Kamala Harris because they believe that he may not be the best choice in their minds. I mean, it's backfiring on the standard bearers of the GOP, because they're pulling out all the stops, and nothing. I think people are numb. He told 74 lies in 45 minutes when he debated Biden, and then he continued, that same winning streak when he debated and got that whooping from Kamala Harris. So I think Trump is carrying a glass lunch bucket, to put it bluntly, and people are able to see right through it.
The phone number is 612-375-9030, 612-375-9030. This is Pledge Week. Today through Wednesday, September 25th, it's our fall member drive here at KFAI, and we've got a role for you to play. That is, be a subscriber, be a supporter, show your support by being a subscriber. And you can do that right now with a phone call, 612-375-9030, or go online to give. You can give online at kfai.org. Let me continue with the question about the second assassination attempt. According to Associated Press article, I think it was from today or yesterday, I'm not sure, updated today at 7 in the morning. It said that, and Dateline is West Palm Beach, Florida, former President Trump wasn't harmed in Sunday's apparent assassination attempt as he golfed near his Florida club.
The alleged assassination attempt. I tend to think that maybe he was just having lunch,
for 8 hours in the woods.
Right. Here's what we know is that he never got a shot off. He was never in. Donald Trump was never in sight of him. So and then he was
fired on by the Secret Service, Jonathan.
Right. But initially they said that he fired shots, and then they had to correct that it was the Secret Service that fired shots. And he lay in wait for 8 to 12 hours out there in the bushes. And I got to wonder why they didn't do a sweep of the bushes before they came around. And that's especially in the 8 to 12 hours beforehand, you'd think somebody would have done that. But it
was the Secret Service agent on the hole ahead of where they were playing who saw him coming out of the trees with the rifle and going back in and coming out and going back in, and who set up the alarm. And they caught him traveling up, was it 95 that runs up the East Coast? A couple hours later, stopped at a gas station.
And just driving, not speeding, just in traffic, just driving in the flow of traffic.
Like he was going to church.
Look at his background, okay? He was in Ukraine recruiting soldiers from the United States to go over there and fight the Russians. He wrote a letter of apology to the heads of Iran because Donald Trump refused to support the Iran peace deal. And he said that he apologized for voting for Donald Trump, and he could understand it if the Iranians wanted to assassinate him or Trump because of his support for him in the 2016 election. And then, Jonathan, what was the comment he made about Nikki Haley?
He had switched his support from Trump 2016. He was advocating for a Haley Vivek Ramaswamy ticket. So
2020, yeah.
As much as this keeps being both of these, well, the one assassination attempt and the alleged assassination attempt, because again, nobody was shot. He never got a shot off. He was never in sight. I don't know and he hasn't been charged with that. Both of these are Republicans. Both of these have issues with Donald Trump, which is clear, but this keeps being laid at the feet of the Democrats as if they're the ones that are causing this, and yet it's their own people.
Yeah.
Right. And the party really needs to take a look at what's happened to themselves. And I think some of them have left, and others have gone ahead and drunk the Kool-Aid and gone all the way in. And if I remember correctly, I think that Jim Jones, when he started losing popularity, had engineered an assassination attempt in order to garner sympathy. I am not saying that's what happened here, I am saying it is very interesting how quickly we have jumped towards assassination attempts and moved past the train of following the evidence and making sure everything is what it is, but also looking at the fact that Donald Trump uses a heck of a lot more Secret Service than almost anybody else, partly because of the fact that he can't do speeches in many venues, rallies in many venues, because he hasn't paid their bills. He still owes Minneapolis from 2016 or 2020. So he's doing these outdoor things where it's riskier.
He's also a master of distraction.
Yes.
Because he has trouble staying on script and sticking to the issues. And as was pointed out in the debate, he has the concept of a plan, okay, but has been unable to clearly voice those plans and policies to move the country forward. And, you know, Make America Great Again is back to the 50s. You know, Make America White Again is what he would really like to do. And it is backfiring on him because people are seeing through the glass lunch bucket. He's just not able to hold his own with Kamala, period. And now they're attacking Tim Walz. The lies that are appearing on Facebook, the mischaracterizations and Vance leading up to the debate on the 10th with Walz just can't find enough mud and untruths and gossip and rumors to direct as a distraction in Tim Walz's point of view. And
Walz,
the horrible things that have been said about Gus Walz, about Tim's son. Okay.
Yes.
Just how low can you go? I mean, Michelle Delicious and Deborah Wilson said it's absolutely ridiculous how low a presidential nominee will go. And
let me invite another person to the program. Wilfred Harris is backstage. I can see him in the backstage here, but his camera is not properly positioned so that we can see his face. There he goes now. Bring Brother Wilfred in. Wilfred Harris is former leader of the Organization of Librarians in Minnesota. He's an author of 3 books, an educator, a statesman, and a gifted speaker and leader in the community. Brother Wilfred, good to see you. I welcome you and your voice to the Conversation with Al McFarlane. How you doing, man?
Al, you know, it's always a blessing talking with you and being with you.
Well, let's jump right in. This question of demonization of Haitian people, this is not new. Part of the story of the West is the effort to reduce our people, whether we're from the continent or the Caribbean, the diaspora, but to minimize our significance as human beings, therefore allowing others to do things that support their interest at our expense. So as you monitor the news about Haiti, the unfounded allegations denigrating Haitian people in Ohio by Vance and by Trump, what do you think? How does it sound? How does the immigrant population feel about that kind of activity?
Well, Al, my brother, thank you so much for this glorious opportunity. This is nothing new. Since the beginning of time, the black man has been targeted. You know that. You know my position on this. You know, somewhere it's stated that the slave will one day rule the master. Somewhere it's stated. And that fear has been haunting our elected brothers from day one. I'm from Liberia, you know that. Even the founding of Liberia, there was a man called Cassius Clay from Kentucky. Now you know what that name Cassius Clay came from. His brother Henry Clay was one of the greatest, if not the greatest speakers, the greatest speaker of the House of Representatives. He went and informed James Monroe that, look, you need to find a homeland for these blacks. Black people are powerful. And they will one day rule this country, long before the Obama started coming, before even Abraham Lincoln. Abraham Lincoln. If you check it, Abraham Lincoln, people say he was a white man. But deep down, it's stated that Abraham Lincoln had the looks of a black man. But this thing has been haunting them. And that's how they have found a way, they have been finding a way to either get black people out of this country or use every means possible to suppress their influence. So when you look around and you see things that they're happening, you just ask yourself why. But the thing is, in the process of destroying the black man, you're destroying America. And America is the hope of this world, whether we want to admit it or not. Yeah, I went to school all over the world, that Japan or whatever. I went. Japanese wanted to be Americans. Wherever I went, the name America meant liberty, freedom, and having a voice. But here we are today. I tell you this. If my wife had been there, she would tell you. As soon as the situation started with Trump and Biden, I told her, I said, Biden will not make it. I said, Biden will drop out of this thing and it will fall. And they better give it to Kamala. If they look for another person, that will be the end. My wife looked at me and she said, why you think that? I said, listen to me. When they announced that Biden was dropping out of the race, she said, no, they will not give it to a woman and then a black woman. I said, sweetheart, listen to me. They will give it to her. They don't have a choice. When they give it to her, that girl said something that scared the devil out of me. She said, I'm a persecutor. And I have persecuted people who beat women, people who not nice, people who take money from the poor to enrich themselves. She said, so I know Donald Trump's type. You remember those words?
Yes.
It scared the devil out of myself. And she got there with a debate. After the debate, guess what happened? The Republicans started leaving their own party, including Dick Cheney of all people. People are tired. People love this country more than they love Donald Trump. But it doesn't sink in.
Yusuf, jump in here. What are your thoughts on that comment? I agree with my brother Wilfred Harris. But I also have the sense that we are not out of the woods no matter how the election goes. I think that if a guy tells you who he is, you got to believe him. And what Trump and his team are telling us is that they are prepared to move the country to civil war. Civil war means a war of numbers, and the object of the numbers would be the threat. And the threat, the epitome of the threat is black people. What do you think, Yusuf?
Well, I think you said it all, Al. You hit the nail right on the head. And again, today, as Coach Leah and I have pointed out, is National Voter Registration Day. People need to vote. People need to register. People need to exercise the franchise. And if we don't, then we have no right to criticize. We have not a foot to stand on. And, when the Spanish conqueror who came to this hemisphere, I'm trying to remember his name. He had blonde hair, and the Aztec people thought he was a god. When it came time for the battle, he burned all of their ships in the harbor. And he said, why did you do that? And he said, because if we lose, all else is lost. Okay, we must win this victory. Our lives and our future, our history depends on it. And it's no different today. We must win this victory at the polls, the popular and the electoral vote. And if you have friends that are in those swing states or battleground states, hit them up, send them an email, text them, call them, and say, hey, are you registered? Are you all set to vote? Get on out there, because it may be raining, it may be snowing on election day, quiet as it's kept. So get it done while while we have this beautiful summer in the fall and not have to worry about it.
Jonathan and Leah, any final words here?
If I could, Al, I'd just like to point out one thing to Brother Wilford, that W.T. Francis, who was one of the first U.S. ambassadors to Liberia, was a resident of the capital city of Minnesota, St. Paul, and lived in the Rondo neighborhood. So we have a lot of connections with Liberia. We have a large Liberian community here in the Twin Cities that we're very proud of, who are very active, involved in church and civic life.
And Yusef, we're out of time. Listen, gentlemen, thank you, Yusef, Wilfred, Jonathan, and Leah. A great conversation. We'll do it again next week. I'm Al McFarlane. This is The Conversation with Al McFarlane. We'll see you next time.
Stay safe.